So, are any of you entrepreneurs? You know, ever since I was a kid in elementary school, I've tried to be an entrepreneur. Always wanted to be. Believe it or not, interesting fact, I would say fun fact, but it's fun for you and less for me. When I was in elementary school, I went to Arizona with my parents, and I bought one of this loom. You guys probably seen them, you made some of your own, but the loom had these strings, and you put beads in it, and you can make these big necklaces and stuff. You know, by the Indians and stuff. Oh, that truck's loud. Well, anyway, I used to make them and then try to sell them on the playground in elementary school. The part that's humorous, probably to you and not so much to me, is the proof behind my miserable spelling and grammar starts all the way back then. I wrote a sign that said "for sale" to me, but read "for seal" to everybody else because I clearly could not spell "sale" over "seal" correctly. It's always been a complication. I mess it up quite frequently. My spelling, my grammar, even using the correct verbiage for things. It's just not something I'm good at. Luckily, I put all that on my wife now. So if I mess up, I blame her fully because she's definitely more advanced than I am. So yeah, even though I failed at elementary school playground sales, I didn't let that stop me. I started doing lawn care, mowing. You know, just like most kids at that age, I mowed quite frequently. And here, get this. I started push mowing lawns for $20. And you know, in some cases that was a lot of money. In others, I was getting ripped off. And it happened quite frequently. I had people who never paid for the services I did. But my dad got involved and we continued. And we mowed lawns for a long time. I was probably pushing near my 20s before the whole mowing altogether ended. In fact, I think I was 21. It was right after a separation between me and someone else. I finally gave it up and started working a more regular job. That's when I became an electrician and started doing a lot more electrical work. But I never gave up on entrepreneurial. I always looked at and thought of other things I could be doing, you know, to put myself in business. I always wanted to be in business for me. I didn't want to always have to work for the man, or any man for that matter. I always wanted to be my own boss, but I didn't want to be the boss of others. So it was kind of challenging to find that kind of work, because I don't want to tell other people what to do, because frankly I suck at it. I have a huge heart. I would let people get away with stuff. Even though it made me angry, furiously angry, I would still let them get away with it, because my heart wouldn't let me go and get on to them. I would start getting upset with them, they would fire back at me, and then I would probably just give in and say, you know, it's not that big of a deal, we'll just move forward. That's probably why I don't want to work with other people. I want a job that if I do work with someone, obviously it's a client. A clients come and go, nothing overly continuous, but you know, it kind of depends on the job. So I didn't give up being an entrepreneur after doing the mowing and, you know, yard maintenance. I didn't give up. I put it aside and I roofed houses, I became an electrician, eventually became an electrical engineer. And still, even then, I wanted to do for myself. So I did. I joined up with a buddy of mine and we became electricians. We actually became Those Guys. That was the name of our company, was Those Guys. Now, I know that sounds funny, but the way I explained it to most people was, well, that's because when you forget our names, you would just ask your wife for, well, who are those guys? And that's who we were. We were those guys. And it worked out really good. We did a number of hot tubs, and I know we did a few basements and things like that. And even since then, I have done tons of electrical work for privately owned people, and, you know, not the people, but their houses, private work. And, yeah, so I've never really given up. And then, let's fast forward. Let's jump into today. And even today, I haven't given up on wanting to be an entrepreneur. In fact, I think it's stronger today than it has been in a long, long time. We dabbled in raising chickens for a while, and we did our best to sell the eggs. Now the meat, the birds themselves, we didn't sell to anybody because the whole FDA thing, we ended up putting them in freezer camp and usually keeping them for ourselves throughout the year. But the egg business went really, really well. I had at least 4 people who would buy 15 dozen eggs from me every single week. So we had I think 107 birds at one time. And it was going great until two terrible things happened. The first, really, the worst part of the whole thing, the hardest one to face, was this dog. So I, at the time, didn't own a rifle, and even if I did, I don't know if I would have done it. But so a dog got in, and that dog killed 3/4 of our entire flock in one day. One day just annihilated the entire flock pretty much. And that created a hardship, because to raise the birds from chicks takes 3 to 6 months before they're going to start laying. It takes quite a while. And then the second part was my job. So my job got in the way because we were bought by another company and our hours undergo a major change, and I was no longer getting home. I was literally gone from sun up to sundown, as I am today, and that's how it's been ever since. And so those kind of things sort of dropped off, and I lost my clients. I stopped having eggs for everybody. In fact, we have one rooster now. That's it, just one poor little lonely rooster who really needs a friend. But that hasn't stopped me still even to today. So now I found something that not only do I like as an entrepreneurial, but I also find a passion in it, and that's videography. I started not too long ago. Just earlier this year I started doing videography, and I have done some weddings and I've done some real estate, and I couldn't be more proud of especially my wedding. The weddings that I did, weddings is plural, I technically have only done the one, but that one wedding was huge. So I did it for free because I needed to get my name out there. And what it was a destination wedding. 17 hours away, I drove all the way to Telluride, Colorado. I stayed there for the weekend, I shot a wedding, and I drove 17 hours back. Slept on the floor in a laundry room the 2 nights I was there, and drove all the way home and spent 3 months, three whole months, working on the final outcome of that video. And even though I've only done the one wedding, it was probably one of my proudest projects, because the feedback I got from the happy couple once they received it was worth every bit. And I take 3 months for a reason to work on that. That's because I need time to say, yes, I still like it, even after I've worked on it. I worked on it for the first few weeks after I got home, and then I sat. I sat so that I could make sure I was proud of my work. I wanted to be happy with it before I ever gave it to someone else. And the feeling I got once it was finished, and the look on the couple's face was worth every bit of it. And that's why I want to continue being an entrepreneur, and that's why I'm adventuring towards videography. So I've started my own business. Beginning of this year, January, February, we started White Hawk Videography, and it's been going pretty well. Unfortunately, I have not compensated for my regular job and or for the amount of money I put into everything. But we're on the right path, we're working that direction, and that's what I want to do. That's what this future is going to be about. The vlog and this channel is not the channel that's tied to White Hawk Videography, and that's because this is where I try and sample to do things that I wouldn't do for someone else unless I've mastered it. And here I'm getting a chance to try lots of things, from transitions to special effects to After Effects, even dabbling into more of the Adobe Premiere side of stuff. This is a great place for me to hone those skills where I'm not being relied on from a paying customer. Here I can mess up all I want. You can laugh at me and I'll laugh with you. It's not a big deal. I totally understand. But what about you guys? So are any of you entrepreneurs? Do any of you do your own thing? Do you work for the man? I suppose we all in the end work for the man, but what do you do? Feel free to comment below. If you're an entrepreneur, tell me about who you are. What do you do? Tell me about your business. Feel free to post it down there. I would love to look at your website if you have one, or your Facebook page. I would check everything out. I really dig people who do for themselves and is proud of what they do. And I think being an entrepreneur is part of life. In fact, this country, the United States, from what I understand, this is my opinion of how I see history, but isn't that how this country was founded? We were all meant to be entrepreneurs. We were all meant to make, create, and sell something so that we would revolve forever. And obviously over time, corporations, companies kind of taken over and things have changed, but that's the way I see this country should be, or any country for that matter. So please, tonight, if you haven't already, thank you for being here. Like, subscribe. Come back tomorrow. We're going to do another daily. We're going to keep doing this all the way through the rest of October. We're going to keep doing this. In fact, this weekend, there's a lot going on. It's going to be a busy weekend. We're going to hang out with a few friends. Next weekend, hopefully, if all goes well, I should be visiting with another YouTuber who comes from north of Kansas City, up by St. Joseph. He's an absolutely great family man. Him, his wife, and his kids should all be out there. I'm not going to name drop because I don't have their permission to do so yet, but I'm really hoping that we can maybe collaborate a little bit. We've hung out many times in the history of YouTube, but I have actually never name dropped them one time, but they have for me, and I owe it to them. So after next weekend, hopefully we'll all get together for my kid's birthday party. So guys, that means come back. You got to see who I'm talking about. They have 42,000 subscribers. I've got 66. I've got a long ways to go. And they're great people. I grew up with them in high school. So tomorrow, we'll see you all then. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.